Sorry.
Go
ahead, Jim.
I welcome. We need minutes.
I motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimously. And
Hello, this is John Dorney for those online recording. Got a little springy on my presentation here. A little bit of color for the engineers, you know. I just reprinted and retyped the agenda, things we're going to talk about. We'll go through each one of these today. Item 1, talk about the MAG Transportation Improvement Plan. I think you were here, maybe that was Planning Commission, when was Bob Allen presenting to you? He sat over here and spoke, or was that Planning Commission? That you guys? He's kind of our contact there at MAG. And every 2 years, they have between $60 and $100 million of gas tax money to spend in Utah County. And all the cities compete for it. You kind of form alliances. You vote for my project, I'll vote for yours. And so it's good to have relationships with other cities. This is we're on the rotation to be selected for projects. And the one we have on there right now is Center Street. We'll talk more about Center Street on item 2, but that is our big project that we put in for like in October, and then they go through a process. There's 100 projects. They whittle them down to the final little bit, and we were ranked 4 on the original submittal.
that's the west side, right?
Yeah, between Geneva and Freeway. Yeah. Geneva to the freeway. And I'll show you. I have a picture of that.
That short one.
Okay. Yeah, because we'll talk about that. Yeah.
And the free, and then there was railroad.
Yeah.
That would be expensive.
And then we requested active transportation plan funding, similar to a transportation master plan, and MAG denied it and said, we paid for the first one in 2011 or 14. You're on your own for the next, they kind of infused it years ago. So they said, no, we're not paying them for anybody else. So we're pursuing other funding. It's $250,000-ish to do a full bike ped. I don't think really transit is part of it, other than the fact if there's a transit stop or hub, they try to provide walking and biking to those areas, but it's not a transit study. So it's not like a State Street transit study, which is a no-no to talk about or anything. So
where else do we get funding from for it?
We are pursuing, there's federal funding we're going after. There's UDOT funding. They do $45 million a year for active transportation. It's called the ATIP or TTIP, ATTIP.
So what are we wanting at State Street?
No, I'm saying we are not studying State Street for transit.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So this is not a transit study. Active transportation is tied to transit when there's stops and they want easy access to it, but we're not going through and adding, bus routes or tracks or stuff. It's not a transit study. When you hear active transportation, they try to get people around on bike and feet. When you hear multimodal, that means cars, trains, buses. That's a different story. So I just want you to be aware that when you hear active transportation, it might intersect with transit. Like the bridge over I-15 would be an active transportation to take you to Front Runner to UVU, but it's not about expanding Front Runner or traction or UVX. So UDOT has $45 million a year that we're also pursuing to pay for that. The federal funding requires 20% match, and I think the UDOT one either has none or 7% most or maximum. So we're looking at that. We also are pursuing funding for the 1600 North, 400 East Murdoch Canal pedestrian bridge. we're pursuing various grant money options there. It's too late and too big of a number to put on the MAG rotation, so we have to wait 2 years. But our plan is that we will pursue and receive grants over the next couple of years and bank those. Because when you go to MAG and you compete with your neighbors, and your neighbor says, we want 10 million and we have nothing to add, and we say we want 6 million and we have 9, that's a big deal. That's a higher score. So we're going to try to get other people's money to, non-city money to pay for it. We do have a 7 to 20% match depending on where the fund comes. So if we apply for a federal grant and we're successful and we have to pay 20%, that's 3 million, then we would go to MAG and say, you pay the 3 million. So in theory, it could be 0 out of pocket for us.
And the lady who spoke to us the last time talked about their researching piping and covering canals. And so there's money out there for that. Could we ask for some of that money to complete a project, 1,600 for that should have been done, but wasn't because there was not enough money? Could we somehow convince them that they could use that money to complete what we've already started? And now we have a very unsafe situation. Would they be?
We'll have to research what the pools are. If there's specific pools that are rail to trails. They take railroads and convert them to trails. I don't know if there's a canal. We're pretty hip on converting it.
Canal to trail. Remember, she was talking to me since I live on that canal, like what she said. But they're just looking at it, barely looking at it. But if there's that money there,
We just have to find out what the money is, what the restrictions are.
Okay.
And we found out today that we're pursuing this SS4 all, Safe Streets for All money. And MAG just told us the deadlines, and one of them's Thursday. There's planning dollars that are for smaller projects and then larger projects. The city has to submit the applications for both projects at one time. And we don't have enough to get the large amount ready, but they have their smaller amount. So there's restrictions on where the money comes from, how it's spent, what it can be spent on. This pool of the SS4 could be spent on this stuff, and this pool could be spent on this stuff. So what you're talking about, we should probably get with Shauna and say, what pool of money you're talking about, and can we use that on other things? And we're all competing against this, same funding.
This money was to new one. She said, across the country, federal dollars, they're trying to cover these canals because it's wasting water. And so.
Well, I can talk to her.
Okay.
The other one, Lakeview Parkway. This is part of the MAG TIP Transportation Improvement Plan that years ago, I think they gave us $14 million. And with inflation, JUB has given us, I think, a 90% design. And as you go through the design, 30, 60, 90, you get better and better numbers of quantities. So I think we're millions short. So we can either go to MAG and ask for more, which is always tough, or we're going to pool some money from some of these other projects. The 1600 North from I-15 to State, there was $8 million to get, and we're kind of negotiating with UDOT. UDOT claims that money went to something else, and MAG says it doesn't. So we're somewhere between 4 and 7 million, depending what number you pick. And if it's the higher amount, it's good for us. But there's the 150 South extension that goes by the mall over to through by Arby's over to Warren Boulevard, and 12th South would kind of realign to get that intersection further away from the Parkway. So far, nobody's really taken that on. No one really wants to have to take the business. There's that little lady's business with the white and pink house just north of Arby's, kind of a little bits and bobs. Yeah. So pebbles in my pocket. So so far the mall in the city is not willing to do much. Plus there's the Mexican restaurant just north of Trader Joe's that would have to, they have the big monument sign in between. So there's a lot of reasons why no one has spent that money, and it's like 1 point something million that we would move from that project over to Lakeview Parkway. The 1600 North and 400 East has 1.4 million to do something. That was originally to put in a roundabout, but the roundabout would cost 3 million anyways. And so, well, that was the original, they advertised it as a roundabout, and that's how they got their funding. But through the environmental process and the public process, it was selected for that everybody scramble. So that scramble would be less than 500,000. And so we're thinking of taking the rest of that 800,000, 800 or 900,000 and moving it towards Lakeview, because if we're going to go after the whole 15 million, then, and it's such a large number, there's no way we can hold on to that long, because it's going to take a lot of money.
Like there's 1,600.
So we're trying to pool that and have the Lakeview Parkway without dipping into Orem City's coffers.
I couldn't remember on your maps. I drove Lakeview Parkway the other day. I've never been on it. Was at the mall and I said, hey, let's hit Lake. Let's go see the airport. That's what we were doing. And then we realized we were on Lakeview Parkway. So we just kept driving and driving and driving. And then we ended up in this neighborhood at the high school. Yes. So where are they going to, are they taking it further north and then coming in? Where do they come into Geneva at?
Right south of the temple.
Okay, so it'll go stay by the lake and west of those farms and then come in.
Yeah, there's a subdivision that they're skirting to the left of or west of, and then they meander in and then kind of come in, and then it becomes Geneva. Like Lakeview becomes Geneva at the temple, and Geneva will tee into that. So you'll have an old Geneva, which will tee in, and the new Lakeview Geneva will be their main route.
Lakeview becomes Geneva.
Yeah,
Well,
have you ever gone?
not by name, but by alignment. If you're driving south on Geneva past the temple, it'll just curve and become Lakeview.
Yeah.
And to get on Geneva, you'd have to turn left at an intersection. So, so that's all being done, designed and planned. And
Have you ever driven Lakeview?
I started trying to figure out where
Beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, nobody's on it.
that's the
'cause I don't
Provost.
think
That's the
it's there.
Provost side. You got to wait till the Orem. Yeah, it dead ends on the north side of Provo.
Yeah, it's a family. But it's nice to get you into the airport.
Yeah.
Well, here's the airport's right here, so I can see the reason why they've done at least the Provo part.
Yeah. So we're looking at trying to get that through that funding. This is item 2, Center Street update. This is a section of it. There's Geneva Road. I don't know if you can see my mouse or not. Probably have to.
On the right or left, on this side over here.
Yeah.
That's there. We go. Okay.
So Geneva Road is here. There's a train tracks that you mentioned here. You can see this dark area is where they have to saw cut out and widen to get these transition points. And if I were to take you further, there's another whole sections of road that basically they're adding bike lanes, 5 lanes total.
So they're not keeping it as wide. But
They just can't go as wide because there's businesses, and so this is a Orem City road, and Orem City really isn't into eminent domain, or I mean I would guess if they were a willing seller, but there's large buildings that we have to take, like oh well us we or yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? So are we widening that road to 5 lanes that currently is how many lanes?
4.
This is kind of a looking towards the freeway. You can see that there's kind of a lane here, but it ends, and then right after the tracks, it kind of comes into 2. heading east. But you can see there's center turn lanes, there's a through road, there's a ton of parking. So based on the shoulder widths, we might come into this grass area a little bit, but there's just such large industrial buildings. We don't want to go full width and take that. I think we even added a sidewalk on the north side.
So we're taking it 5 lanes would be 2 in the traffic both ways, turn lane in the middle.
Yep.
And 5 lanes on the side.
And sidewalks, yeah.
And we have room to do all that.
And parking.
No parking.
No parking. No parking is fine.
Do the businesses may not need parking right there because they don't have parking lots.
Yeah. You see the occasional truck like that parked there, but it's just out of convenience. They could take up a lane and figure out where they have to go. But there's a little bit of storefronts down here. Most of these are industrial. You pull in the back and go in. So it's just a plan. We have power poles on the south side, you can see, which are more expensive. So we expanded a little bit to the south, but more to the north. We had a consultant kind of draw it up for us that I showed you. You can see this dark area. Anything that's the darker gray or black, it means it's been saw cut out and pavement's been added. And there's more of that as you head
How far
east.
will this continue?
So this
Just
will,
to the freeway?
yeah, this will go just about to where you can see the freeway. So
you're gonna be peeling people off getting on the freeway.
yeah, as you get to the freeway, it widens out. It's got 2 lanes already. So it's matching the striping. It's not at all going to 7 lanes. We're not pursuing that at all right now. But this is definitely a bottleneck, and it's a gateway to Vineyard. It's Geneva Road is a 7-lane road planned, and it all comes by this. And this is this little necked in area that is a little bit tough. The railroad doesn't help. There was, I think you mentioned or alluded to it, that the railroad was supposed to go away, but they have one user on it that the railroad has not finished taking care of that. And I think 5 or 6 years ago, they were going to do this, and they said, we'll wait for the railroad to be gone, and it's still there. So we're just going forward, assuming it is.
Is there a plan? I'm just thinking, I love that we're thinking about that internet range doing it. And how is it connected to what already exists on the other side of the freeway? Are we just, like, is there a way for bikes to safely cross that so that they can use Center Street?
The bike lane on Center Street?
Not up the hill.
So where are the bikes getting on this bike lane that they would be using?
I think they're on Geneva, but we have the same issue on 4 South. Like there isn't any bike lanes east of the freeway on 4 South, and so but they are on Geneva. So I brought that up. It's like it's better to have the bike lanes where we can put them in, because if you don't do it when you have the project, they'll never be in. So even though they're not continuous, it's better to put them in. And when you're talking a freeway interchange, you look at that, it's like that is, that's crazy and scary. So other than bridges and stuff, that's a tough place to ride a bike. If you got to be serious about it, to want to ride through that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm all for putting in bike lanes, and I can see do it as you can. Looking forward to an active transportation plan and connectivity, especially for biking and super important, because if you have large sections, yeah, you have lanes here and you have lanes here, but I feel really unsafe here. Right back, right?
Yeah.
So I get it. I was just wanting to learn.
Is there any way to do, those bike lanes, street, grass, bike lane, what are those called? No.
Cycle tracks.
Could you do you said you might be coming over doing a little sidewalk or something? Could it be instead of a bike lane there, street, grass, bike lane, a protected bike lane? There's a name for it.
There's either a cycle track or buffered bike lane. So the tough thing is here is there's not a lot of room left over for any kind of large landscaping. we would already have to pay these businesses, because once we break our own standards, if you have a 15 or 20-foot setback and we encroach on that, because we demand that as the city, when you come in, you got to build this setback, but then we go and take it and they're like, well, you don't have to do it. So we have to pay them some appraised fee for not adhering to the setback that we just took. But on this instance, there's probably not room to do those buffered bike lanes, because now you have this landscaped area that we need to get rid of to actually fit it in. And MAG is actually the one that said, come back with the proposal with bike lanes. Like, we submitted one without it, and they're like, go big and come back even if it's taking buildings. So we came back, and we don't take buildings, but we're 5 or 6 feet away from some of these buildings. So
It's also really nice if there's not enough space to do a small thing of candlesticks or on the middle of they call them that separate the bike a little bit.
And those could be done at any time. They could be done after the fact.
I'm looking at that big truck and trailer. I'd hate to be on a bicycle with that guy turning.
Well, it's a industrial area, yeah. So if you're going to bike ride through here, you're not going to be the family riding to the rec center or something. And you have the big hill after the freeway, and that's, if you look at the slopes on the hill on Center Street, they had to box in around utility boxes on the north side. The slope comes in, and then there's a utility box, and so they had to build these concrete barriers to keep the slope from covering those up. And they're just, to do anything on Center would require massive takes and widening, and so anything widening on Center beyond now, or bike lanes or lanes would be quite a big ordeal.
But this really is more about connectivity between the freeway and the Adjorn project. Might as well put the bike lanes in it.
Yeah, and this I know.
I've seen in the last year and a half, I've seen 4 people. But it's taken out the center turning lane, so traffic is back all the time.
You gotta tell me where you live and we'll do it more.
400.
They're doing once a month now, 400. The 4th Saturday of every month, they're doing 400 for the 4 square ride. Bike lines, 4 west, 4 south, 4 east, 4 north. They've done it twice, but they're doing it a month.
Speaking of 4 south and bike lanes,
They're getting more bike lanes on 4 south.
I know, speaking of 4 south and bike lanes,
Yeah.
that's item number 3. So you mentioned in this area, and I've got multiple graphics. This is 4th South. This is the, what is it, Lakeside Sports Park. You mentioned different options of putting bike lanes where you put the cars on the left and bikes on the curb. We're still trying to decide how that would look. We looked at Daybreak, and they said that people are still parking in the bike lane against the curb. And so we may have to do those delineators or something, but we're trying to get data that says the pros and cons about leaving it like this or switching it so that there's parking swapped. And I think Bike Orem said, yeah, this is worse because when the door opens, you get hit. Right?
Well, the door opens either way. You get hit going into traffic,
Yeah.
or you get hit going into the sidewalk and grass.
They prefer sidewalk. So,
Yeah.
so the issue is people parking in the bike lane, and maybe we do delineators not so close together, so it's all what do they call it, sign pollution. But we're toying with that. But I wanted you to know that this is likely a newer drawing. I did find out UDOT's going to put in the second left. So right now this is Chevron, and they're going to add the second left. And
This is where the, okay.
yeah, so the sports complex is here, and Vineyard Elementary is right here.
Sorry.
I know, I don't have a large, I've got 3 figures of the same road. And then this is further west. Here's a sports park. Here's the driveway. And we're actually going to realign this to line up with this. Actually, Vineyard is kind of spearheading heading it because it's kind of at our border with them. So we're looking at options still. We got to figure out this transition. This is one of the ones we've been seeking funding for from this Safe Streets for All, but the project minimum has to be $2 million. And we don't have $2 million worth of work, especially if Vineyard has 800,000 already to realign this. This is really just a striping.
Even with your realignment plan.
This one?
No, next one. That one.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, that wouldn't cost that much, but I know it's totally counterintuitive. You're like, so stack the deck, and
Is there a way to partner with Vineyard?
So we
That extends past the, right, it's where if you have it, you know, that picture, right, there's the whole parking lot situation, and then it starts housing.
Yeah, see, this is tough because this becomes a residential neighborhood and it's not as wide with all of these options. So the bike lanes may not continue, but
there's a really wide path
right
that could qualify now if you cross.
right there.
Oh, yeah,
Say maybe just
that's a
enhance that
path,
trail.
that's a path that's gonna have to be a trail, yeah.
Yeah. So we met with them, we teamed with them. One of the things that they brought up was to out here on Geneva. Where's Geneva? Geneva's right here. Geneva has bike lanes and they have terrible, I guess, ped crossings. So to try to get to that 2 million, we were going from 4th South to 4th North and finding locations. And that's part of the reason why we won't be ready by Thursday, is that we're trying to figure out projects to get to that minimum. And there's $600 million in this thing. And I don't think they want 5,000, $2 million projects, or, they want bigger chunks. The bridge that collapsed, they could get it 50 million. They want 50, 30, 40 million type jobs. And so they limited above 2. So we're working with Vineyard. We're looking at putting a median in here. That adds a little bit. We're looking at redoing the parking lot. We just put the school. We're looking at crossings across Geneva. There was 2 fatalities this area of Geneva. We're not sure if they were kind of run off road and single cars, but either way, they have the pedestrian fatality because the fatalities get more attention. So, and we found out in this grant that they like systems. They don't want someone just to come in and say, I want to buy and put the bridge in at 1600. They want linear corridors. And MAG has researched kind of what projects have won. And they find out that it's kind of a system. It's a corridor, not just a spot intersection or something.
Not an overpass. So is that the idea of extending it further east? Okay, what's on the other side of Geneva?
Well, we were looking at north-south Geneva crossings. If you've looked at, before Bangor was a grade separated, they had these overhead crossings with spirals and stuff. And so Vineyard believes that because Vineyard's city limits are up here a little bit too, but they think that we can maybe find stuff that's across east-west, something like that. Yeah, along different places. So they're talking to MAG. We kind of like split up and said, you guys go look at this and you go look at this and we'll come back together. So that's kind of where we're at.
There are students on the other side.
There are students right down here, but they're all bused. We did have a lady come to planning or city council about this project where the nursery is.
Grants.
And the ladies that lived in one of those apartments said something about safety of crossing, but we looked at the safe routes to school plan and that whole area is bust instead of having the kids cross Geneva. And so they just had bus pictures all in that neighborhood. They're just no way they're gonna let their kids cross that without a bridge or something,
If there was a bridge there.
possibly. There were definitely a lot of houses there, apartments, condos. Fourth item, report back in on the 12th West crossing. This is a relatively new plan. I believe when we talked one of the times here and Shauna talked about it, she said we'd rather have bike lanes on the outside. So we went ahead and took out some, this is concrete here. It used to go all the way to the curb. So we had openings where the bikes just can keep going. They still have to stop and yield. Yeah, and we're not making this a stop sign. We're making it it's a high visible crosswalk. So it flashes, it doesn't stop cars, but it flashes and
But
says,
it tells you if there's somebody there. You can
Is it
stop.
above the pedestrian bushes? Start that.
Yeah.
Is the crosswalk really crooked?
so the reason why it's crooked is this, yeah. If you're walking through the crosswalk and it has a little bend, it slightly has you face traffic. So it's a Z crosswalk. It just gets you that direction. I mean, technically you could walk straight across the middle, but it gets you to move a little bit. And I've even seen countries where they separate them, where they put like a Disneyland bar, and you have to physically walk towards traffic and then turn just to get you, because you mess up your left and rights in Europe and stuff. So people get hit. We always look left when we cross. You look left and step, and there's cars coming this way. So Europe will have guided ways, but this is what we did for this one. So there's a mast arm. There's a sign that's talks about pedestrians and the flashes, and it gets activated when someone pushes it. And this is the end of the sidewalks. This is the end and beginning of bike lanes. So as you head north, you just kind of veer right and keep going. It's
Will this one ever consider a crossing guard there?
we're discussing that.
Yes.
We just don't know. Yeah, they're hard. We need them all over the place. So the hard part is finding them, but they said they could potentially have it there if there's enough, or work with this resident and say, we're going to have a crossing guard. Would that change your mind?
You've got what, 45 homes,
Well, there's 40 students
40 students.
that go to,
They're cool.
did you have a question?
I was saying, you think about the yield triangles,
Just
the painted yield triangles.
so there's certain design that goes in with these, and those shark teeth you're talking about, UDOT has a specific plan of what goes in here, and I think those were originally drawn in and we took them out. It kind of represents where to, I know what you're saying, they have them at school crossing guards, and I can ask Taylor about why that's,
I'm just thinking.
yeah, UDOT lays out these different things, and this is something that we followed. There's not a flashing yellow sign, or sorry, there's not a flashing 20-mile-an-hour zone. It's a 35, I think, mile-an-hour street. And so there's only certain things you can put in there, but I can talk to Taylor Forbush over in Public Works and find out about what we call them shark's teeth, just the triangle yields. It just, yeah, they're white triangles. You approach the point and it just kind of gives you it's not a stop bar, because when you put a solid stripe, people think they need to stop. And if you do the shark teeth, it's kind of like, okay, this is a crosswalk. You see them on the curve and stuff where you don't have to stop, but if there are people there, it's kind of a little yield sign. So I'll talk to Taylor about that. This is going forward. We're trying to get this in
The timeline.
before. Yeah, we want it installed before next school year. Number 5, I don't know if you're familiar with Tiger Team. Somebody came up with that, Sam or Chris Shirkey. Maybe it's Transportation Tiger Team, the T3s, but there's a group called the Tiger Team that meets every 2 weeks. And then I started the Tiger Cubs meeting, for a sub meeting of that. So every 2 weeks, this Tiger team meets. It's Chris Shirky, Brand, police. There's 10 or 11 people that all talk about traffic issues. And in between those 2 weeks, me and Taylor meet every 2 weeks, so that every week there's something going on to try to address these issues. And so I just wanted to report in a little bit here. We've got 28 completed tasks, and I'll show you some of those on the next slide. 9 came from City Council, 12 from the public, 3 from staff, 4 from Alpine School District or neighboring groups, and we've completed 28. We have 54 left. Again, this is where they all came from. And so we get these requests that come in all different text, emails, that goes through the mayor, goes to the city council, that goes to anybody. It gets to someone in the Tiger team usually, and then we enter it into this master spreadsheet. Now, I don't know if you can read any of that, but I shortened it. Yeah, so this is one of like 65 rows, and I took out a couple of columns that had the person's name and phone number and stuff, but basically we have another column that says this person called and said this, or wrote and said this, or emailed us and said this, and we put it in there. Then we have a staff response, and we discuss who got the call, who owns it, so who's like the project manager, the dates. The red means got to be done soon, like urgent. There's different disciplines: traffic calming, pedestrian crossing, speed. So we have the PD involved. We got public works. You have engineering. We have NIT, the neighborhood group. What's that stand for? Neighborhood Improvement Team. So we take these and decide what we can and can't do. And that's going on in the background. Yep.
Are these all safety concerns, or my email about the pothole, does that end up on this thing as well?
No, just because that was someone's decision, just to say, go fix it. Where is it? You know? But we have like red curbing. Someone videotaped an area of their cul-de-sac, the end of it, and well, the starting of it, right where it hits the other street, and there's cars blocking, like almost parking. Yeah, they're parked on the main road and they're parked here, and there's a sidewalk and they're blocking it. So he's like, look at this. So we're going to go in and red curb it. There's a state law that says you can't park within 20 or 25 feet of an intersection, but is it 20, 25 feet? And
When you leave Winco and you get to 800 West, is it 800 West? It's across from the assisted living place, and you come out of that street, and there are those Mediterranean condos there. It looks a little better than it used to. I mean, they were parked to within 10 feet. You could not see who was coming from there. They moved it back a little. Yeah, so it's stuff like that. I was like, who do you call?
Yeah, you call anybody, call their office, they'll get it to us. So
those bike lanes, get rid of those bike lanes.
it's anything to do with streets and traffic. Light poles are out, sight distance.
But it's things that would take collaboration between the city departments.
Yeah, like when someone comes in and says, I want speed humps on 50 East. We're like, well, we just had bulb outs. We took those out. So the fire hates speed humps, police hate speed humps, snow plows hate speed humps. If we're really going to put those in, it has to be, you know, brought up to mayor level. But other things are like red curbed or sight distance over by Target. They don't know this yet, but we're going to ask Target to cut down some junipers on the S curve on Orem Boulevard, because you can't see each other, whether you're the car heading this way or the car heading this way. Trim the trees up, and as they grow tall, you kind of keep trimming them up, and then you cut the junipers down. Just stuff that people see that we don't see because we're not out there. So that's going on in the background, and you're part of the tax, so you probably should know what the city's doing. But yeah, it's actually, we're adding faster than we can get rid of them. So we had a 3-hour meeting today. It went for 3 hours to go through these and say who's responsible, when's going to get done, we gotta clear these because it never ends. And I think it just picks up in the summer because people are out and about. So that is what's going on. Item 6. This is kind of a reflection question. We have a traffic calming toolbox. Speed humps are mentioned, but they're not part of the buffet list because they usually don't like to put them in. So I just wanted your opinions as the TAC committee, how you feel about these, and are there specific ones that you like or support, or a speed hump is just a normal, it's 14 feet long though. It's not a bump, it's a hump, and it's only like 4 inches tall. But the Palisades ones are speed tables where it's got basically a speed hump that's been split open and putting a flat surface on for crosswalks. So you can have a speed table, which is just a hump with a flat spot, or a speed hump. And then there's all different combinations of chicanes and bulb outs. Just if you have any comments to add, we have this traffic calming program. We have a questionnaire where if 75% of the people want something in the neighborhood, then we can put it in. But if they don't meet that, then we don't put it in. We also have, in Reno, we had rubber mats where we would temporarily put them in. And then if they voted to take them out, or if they voted to keep them in. But they were like $50,000 for these mats. So I'm trying to find cheaper ones, but snow plows will just destroy them if they accidentally hit them, like, because they're just bolted into the ground, the temporary ones. But not sure. There's been a lot of talk and requests for speed humps and speed tables and things. I'm not sure if this committee has an opinion or adamant about. I know we're clear on bike lanes. Is anyone?
I think that you should keep everything that is available to us in the toolbox. That doesn't mean that every place that's calling for traffic calming, even if they specifically call for a speed hump, maybe there are other things in the toolbox that for that situation make more sense. But I don't know why we would remove options.
Sure. So they're not in there there's a list of 15 or 20 items, and there's pictures and samples, but not of speed humps. Speed humps are mentioned in the text because they describe horizontal speed calming, which is left and right, and then they have vertical, which is up and down. And so they're listed about the pros and cons of horizontal and vertical, but they're not in there as an option. But it's tough.
Maybe you better teach us about speed humps next time.
Okay.
Because
that's my next
to
question.
me, a speed hump is that where it goes up, and then I've got about 6 or 8 feet, and then I go down, so that I don't take out my, whatever you take out on a speed bump when you hit it, or on a dip. I mean, those are killers. But, they just seem.
How fast are you driving?
If you hit them at over 15, you're in
I
trouble.
was going to say they're supposed to be 15-mile-an-hour traversable, but it all depends on
Yeah.
a lot of
You
things.
can tell because on those, there's one on, where is it, on Main Street going up, and it's a dip. People have removed all of the cement and everything on both sides of that.
Those aren't on purpose. That's just a drainage thing.
I know.
I mean, that's not meant to be traffic calming, but it ends up that way because the drainage.
But, yeah, I mean, what are you asking?
Just
Teach us about.
just as you're out in the community, the first thing that people usually want to reduce speed in a neighborhood is put in a speed hump. So as the TAC committee, I think you should know our stance as staff. And if you have a strong opinion about, I mean, it doesn't have to be strong either. I think you've answered it like, yeah, just leave them in there and see. But I just wanted you to know that those are tough politically to put in and tough for the police and fire. I talked to them for the last week about it, and they're like, when you have 3 minutes to get to that baby who needs help, you don't want anything in the way, and that's why they do it. So So if you have neighbors or friends that say, put in a speed hump, I just wanted you to know that it's not always that simple, and it takes up parking. Like, people have to get rid of their parking to put them in because there's a lot of reasons, but that's kind of why.
Palisades asked for them and then they wanted them removed, didn't they? Because they were so bothered by them.
They were bulb outs. They weren't even speed humps. They were,
Yeah, well, you just cement coming out into the.
it necked down the road when you cross it at sidewalks, but I guess.
Maybe you don't know the history of this, but Orem, who has to get it, 75% approval for traffic calming, did they not get that in that project?
I don't think this was adopted, this master plan with that language in there.
Yeah, okay, so that's after.
And sometimes it just gets political where they're just like, we don't care about that, just put them in, so.
Would, according to like police fire, is horizontal traffic calming better than the vertical traffic?
Yeah, as long as they have their 20 feet, 20 to 26 feet, that's what they require.
So I think that language would be okay if you can apply.
Yeah.
You would say like, because of emergency services, the city is going to preference horizontal over vertical. I don't think that means that entirely, because I could foresee there might be a situation where that would be what's called for, and why would we want to hamper ourselves?
And I think the fire said, I'm not going to tell you no, but I'm just, you just know where I stand. And it's the same with every fire department in the nation. That's just what gets in the way. But just kind of wanted you to, I probably shouldn't have asked you how you feel about it. I probably just should have started with, we get a lot of requests for speed humps. We had a lot of put in a stop sign for speed, and that's also a no-no.
Well, I mean, I think a positive city answer to that could be, right, like, thank you for telling us that you're concerned about speed on the street. We have this whole toolkit that goes beyond a stop sign and a speed bump or a speed hump that has proven to be more effective in some cases, or is more appropriate in this situation.
Yeah,
right. So
sure.
I think people just know. Well, if they make the car stop, the car is going to go slower. They think it's a stop signs tend to speed up traffic. They speed up the stop sign.
Yeah.
And if there's a bump, then I'll have to slow down without thinking. I mean, before I started looking at this kind of stuff, I would have thought, well, when the sidewalk takes in more of the street, and then it's a little bit smaller, or the lanes are painted smaller so that the cars feel like they have less room, like those kinds of things I would never know. So I don't expect the neighbors to know about them.
Yeah, they did that. They necked it down on 5 to 10-foot lanes. It just feels narrower a little bit.
Yeah, but those are the kinds of things that I think the concern is things are too fast in my neighborhood. Things that I know of to stop them, because the average neighborhood person would be stop sign or a speed bump. So that's why I'm asking for those things.
Yeah.
When the city could actually provide different solutions to the same problem that are.
Yeah, I have to make a phone call. I have to make a phone call tomorrow with a citizen near the Meadow Gold property and we're going to talk to him about other options, so it's just, what's that? It's not totally related to that project. It's just
What are
But
they?
that's going to happen.
311 units, apartments.
What's that by Orem Community Hospital?
No, they don't.
Oh, sorry, Meadow Gold property.
On State Street, night south.
That
And
one,
they were developing in the
without any sort of.
That's another whole meeting. So, okay, we can next time show you some speed humps and bumps. There's humps, bumps, and lumps, and bumps are in Target and humps are in the street, and lumps have carve outs for emergency vehicles to just drive straight through them. So for ambulances. Yeah, there's wheel cutouts. We talked about that with the fire department, but they were like, we're not sure how we like that. So hopefully their clearance is good enough.
Yeah, I was gonna say that Tiller is never gonna be able to get that.
The guy that got care, but
Yeah.
that's his problem.
True. 7, just wanted to let you know, there's a Connected Communities Summit in September. It's kind of a bike active transportation thing, and I think it's in Provo.
The county?
It's at the county thing, but it's just put on by a local Bike Orem or Bike Utah. It's called Connected Communities Summit. They were advertising it this early, I think, to get attention, but they already have people who are speaking and different things. So if you're into bike and active transportation, you can, I think you can go on there and look at the planned speakers and everything.
So this includes talking about trails, right?
Yep.
One like consider rollerblading.
What's
all
that?
these-
Yeah, you can read the website I think if you Google Connected Utah Connected Communities Summit, or I can send you a link. I kind of browse the topics and who was speaking. Sometimes I get to know what kind of topic it's going to be by who's speaking, but I didn't recognize very many people, or if anybody, who were speaking. So we'll see. And then to answer your question, or to continue with the speed hump training, is there anything you want to see more or less out of this meeting, or specific topics or special guests? Or you're always welcome at any time to go, hey, I'd like to hear more about this, or I'd like Mag to come in again and talk about something, or some other group. So up for suggestions, not just today, but at any time. If you
Slightly controversial, but also update on transit on Facebook. Yeah.
I think UDOT right now and MAG have no plans, because they were told no by the city. Like, don't even think about it. Take it off the master plan. Don't talk about it.
I read about a month ago that the funding for that X line
UVX.
is fired. What are they gonna do?
For free rides.
The free ride?
Well, they just have to charge people.
Either that or come up with some money.
So you get, UDU and get ready to go. Maybe staff and staff, does it still get free?
So no, they do, but the funding is not in.
Yeah,
They still
so.
get it for-
So the students get it.
The students with an ID card for either of those universities, the university subsidize. And you get free on any UTA. So you get free. Like, if you take any bus, you take not running, you take anything, you don't pay for it. So anybody who has a student ID, you just have to scan it now like you would on any other thing to use. But anybody else who doesn't have an ID would have to pay a ticket.
That's what
So do you want more detail about that, or?
just if there is, yeah.
It was a quarter, 10%.
Is that the quarter of a quarter or the fifth of a quarter? It's like,
Yeah. That's what had, when they opened it, that's what had done the free fare, but it wasn't yet. From BYU.
So that's on our sales. City sales tax.
It's be what you paid $1 million, you paid $1 million, and that's what funded that. That's what.
I wasn't.
That'd be interesting to know.
There was, I know there was some tax, something. There was a quarter of a slice of a.
there was a quarter of a quarter and a fifth of a quarter. Recently, the fifth of a quarter, and it's kind of a joke when you say it, right? And you just, what's a quarter of a quarter? But it's big enough to be substantial because it's a lot of money. But I'm not sure where they go, where they get the funding, but we can find out. Maybe Mag knows more. I have in touch with UVU, but, and then transit on state. I can answer that. I can answer that right. I can answer that. We have been told, do not talk, because it was tied to the State Street Master Plan with the districts with the high densities, and that got taken away. So now there's no reason to have transit with high densities because the zoning doesn't have high densities. So,
Given the new makeup of city council, is there any anticipation that that might change? Or is that just staying the way it is?
Maybe
Or
promises, so I doubt it.
But- so-
They made promises, so I doubt
Well, we
it.
got a mayor issue. Anyway, the point is, sorry, I went, we're out at 12 west, 12 south. Did you ever talk to you?
The 12th and 12th or 12th and 4th?
Well,
12 sound.
the roundabout there?
By Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, you said they no longer want it.
Right, yeah, it's 12th and 4th, I think. Anyways.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, 12.
Yeah, I just talked to, UVU kind of changed and said, yeah, it's too big, we don't want it. They didn't hire a person, it's a friend of Val Peterson, that said, hey, because this person designed the original roundabout in the state, which is at their entrance. So he's like, can you get with John and talk about this roundabout, and which is me, and say, explain, you guys talk traffic. Let's find out if it's needed. And so I had that conversation yesterday. We haven't met yet, but he basically said, I think we're fine. I just need to look at it and I'll tell Val we're good. And so Val was just worried that it's too big, not needed. I told him we already bought a house. We bought
They're not paying for it.
they would have to sell their land to us.
So what?
I know.
It's a little corner that they don't.
Nobody's using it. We bought the church land
we-
back here,
We put in,
just have permission.
well, we got signatures. We have to come and pay for the parking we took. There's a fee for taking their parking. But they did sign all the papers, but we got to add to it. And then we did buy a house in the northeast corner. So we own that house. It's a rental now that we need. So pretty close. And it is going forward. When I talk to this person, I've known him for 25 years. So it's not like it's new. So I was just like, let's just tell me what's the issue. He's like, he just wants to smell test it and make sure that we're good. And the council, we had a small, medium and large roundabout, and one was pretty big. One was in there somewhere in between. And we said, if you build the small one, you may have to build the big one or something else in 10 or 15 years. They said, well, then just build the one that's going to get us through the longest, except for the massive one. So we kind of settled on that one, which is called a hybrid roundabout, where it's not just one lane. It's not just two lanes. It's two in some parts and one in the other based on volume, and it necks it down a little bit. So I think we're there. I just have to have that meeting and get the thumbs up.
You know they're putting a building in, right?
Engineering building.
Like, why is anybody fighting the fact that UVU is growing? They've got the most students in the state. They're putting a building right there. And why do you think you won't need it at some point if you're gonna say, okay, today we don't? But it seems illogical to me, given what.
Yeah, we were a little bit surprised that, because
Somebody is just.
well, we changed our plan to take out less trees on the north side of the property, which makes sense. And then we changed our plans to accommodate the church access and add like a left. We added bike lanes, I believe, or in that area. So we accommodated requests. So we feel like we've done what we can. And we got the signatures back from the church, which took a while, but we have to get those again and give them more money. But UVU hasn't even came up with a price yet, so we have right-of-way documents of exactly what chunks we need. And, they have a monument sign that's old and scabbed over, and they have a upper sign that's all faded that needs to be replaced. So their entrance to their school, it almost helps them because they need a new entrance.
For landscaping here.
Yeah.
Where's the new building on the
That's
northwest
Adjorn
corner?
building.
Across
Oh,
Yeah, it's a northwest.
north of the church.
If you take Wolverine Way into the school,
Goes on the street. North of the church. I don't know the name.
north of the
yeah,
state
that's
center,
gonna be the interior.
across the road, yeah.
They combined engineering technology. But they've only had like half an engineering program.
They have a full 4-year now, so they're going all in. So we'll talk about speed humps. We'll talk about transit on State Street, UVX funding, and maybe an update on that. And if there's anything else throughout the course, just let us know. I mean, we've had guest speakers come in. I think JUB wants to come in and talk about the 1600 4th East their report. They did, 120-page report that they can come and talk to you about it. JUB did the design and engineering.
I think in general, for me anyway, the guest speakers, UDOT, MAG, JUB, what else have we had? The bicycle group, those have been spectacular. Just to expand our understanding, get a good basis for where things are coming. Maybe want to do those once a year or something like that, like you got like just get 120% what's going on. They're very powerful.
Yeah.
Or you know, how you judge that.
Yeah, when Bob Allen came, I don't know if you remember the commercials years ago called E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton spoke, people listened. That was a commercial that when he spoke, everybody stopped. That was kind of how he was. He eloquently explained the MAG process so well that he, I think, tempered. I think it was the Planning Commission or not.
So Bob Allen worked for the city here. That's Bob Allen.
I don't think so. He's a transit planner, transportation planner.
From UTA came up.
Yeah, you can,
Yeah, so that was, those were all been going.
Okay. We'll add brainstorm on that. We still have that presentation to council that Sam talked about sometime this year,
what we're doing.
kind of accomplishments or plans.
Jeff asked me to update everybody on account finding information now. But the city and Adjorn are working together for a day in May that is like to work day. There's going to be things, there's going to be something at
Stations.
stations where different businesses are donating breakfast or different, you can get bike tune-ups, those kinds of things. So I know the mall is donating the orchard, the outside space there. I know there's going to be something at Canyon View Tech Center right by the Murdoch Trail. I know there was going to be there were 4 or 5 different stations identified over by BPU. So Adjorn's spearheading it, but the city's going to help get the word out, and they're helping make connections with other businesses. They're hoping to make it an annual event to increase the visibility of those who are using biking in the city.
Lots of people use them, and I have no problem with that. The problem I have is the biking state of both space.
I see people using them. So Adjorn, I think would very much like to also see more people using them. Some of it is, did they feel safe enough with what we already have? Right. So there's a little bit of.
I mean, the Murdoch Trail, I think it was in Linden or PG, but there was 257,000 users in the year on the Murdoch Trail. And I know that's a that's a recreational trail.
No, you just have to.
So there are people that are using it, but I mean,
On the streets.
yeah, I have a tough time riding. It's just stressful, and you get horror stories and things of accidents.
If I could find the information, I would have to pay for that, but I can send it in.
But that's not, they scheduled it for this year.
Yeah, it is this year. It's May.
Okay.
I can send you the locations they have and what's been going on so far.
They said I could,
Collaboration.
They said I could drive halfway, and then ride my bike in because I live in Spanish Fort.
Yeah.
I was like, can I cheat and drive halfway and then bike to work?
You don't have to tell them.
Yeah.
Drive to Target and then run for bike.
As long as it's all downhill.
But I mean, I rode my bike here because I didn't take the bus to which day I drove. And so I didn't get any riding yet. I was like, I need to move my body. Main Street isn't so bad without bike lanes, but it doesn't feel super safe. Like, it's doable. It's not my favorite.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if I felt a little bit safer.
The kids have got it figured out. They ride on the sidewalk.
Or on the sidewalk.
Yeah, which is not what we want to necessarily encourage. Because people
The little
we want
kids,
to be safe, but we
The
also
kids have
want
figured it out.
people to be on the sidewalks and not be hit by a bike.
Well, just like I said, down the road, if there's other topics, guests, people that you hear about, we'll work on that. And
And
that's
I'll send an email out about that.
that's all I have today. Do you have anything else?
No.
I looked at her.
All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much. For your
Very
very
nice.
springy presentation.
I love your agenda. Good job.
And I'll probably keep this
That format.
motif going because it's nice and bright. I don't know. I did one of those same backgrounds at a MAG meeting where I was asking for, that's where I was asking for the active transportation funding. And there was 35 engineers in the room and I